Dillon Precision has a lot of presses to choose from. In this video, I'll help you decide which press is best for you. Gavin here from UltimateReloader.com. As you can see, Dillon has a lot of reloading presses they manufacture and sell. You may have decided you want Dillon because they make quality equipment. It's made right here in the USA and they stand behind their products. And they're tried and true. But which one? That's what we're going to cover in this video. Now, I'll mention that I've already gone in depth on all of the progressive presses on the market. You're going to want to check out the Progressive Press Shootout where all of these presses, minus the CP2000 on the end, are featured. In this video, I wanted to take a little bit of a different tactic. I wanted to make this a little bit more conversational and to provide a few more pieces of context and some anecdotes. I also want to invite you, the viewer, to voice your opinion. If you just bought one press versus another, let me know why. Talk to us about what you're using it for. If I missed a key talking point in one of these, drop a comment and bring that to our attention. So I'm going to include some features and specs. We'll talk about some of the total cost of ownership. I'm just going to go with the simplest setup and the most deluxe setup. Just know that if you go to the Progressive Press Shootout, the article and the video, that you're going to find more in-depth information. Okay, so we're going to start with the least expensive press and move our way up to the most expensive press. We're going to start with the Square Deal B. The Square Deal B is a pistol reloading press. It's got 4 stations, and it's the only press in Dillon's lineup that uses proprietary dies. So if you had one set up for 45 ACP, you would buy a caliber conversion with dies for, say, 9mm, for instance, and you'd be able to drop that tool head on, adjust the dies, and go. It's not going to take your standard 7/8 14 dies. Okay, with that said, there are some things about this press that are appealing. The cost is one of them. The optimized short stroke is actually a benefit for pistol length cartridges, because if you're loading on a press that can, say, like the XL750, load 30-06, there's a lot more handle movement, right? And some of that is wasted energy. So there's a trade-off between the versatility and the optimized stroke for the pistol cartridges. This press is also decked out with some of Dillon's standard features, like the slide bar powder measure that is basically identical to the other powder measures you'd find on the much more expensive equipment. And it's got the low primer warning. It's got a tube-fed priming system. It's a great piece of reloading gear. It just doesn't have the flexibility to have things like a case feeder, and it's not going to be able to accommodate rifle cartridges. So some people have these dedicated for multiple pistol setups, multiple pistol cartridges. Maybe it's 357 mag for your lever action rifle, right? As long as it's a pistol cartridge and it's supported by Dillon, it's going to work. Okay, so that is kind of the basic deal on the Square Deal B. So for one pistol caliber, the street price and the MSRP, which are the same for Dillon, is $585, and for 4 pistol calibers, it's $1,020. We don't have rifle calibers to throw in the mix for the total cost of ownership, since it is scoped to pistol only. So, to summarize, who is it for? Pistol loading on a budget. Who it's not for? Rifle reloading or commercial loading. Although you can crank out a lot of rounds on this thing and not worry about it wearing out. The pros are cost, quality, and simplicity, the pistol optimized stroke, and the cons are the proprietary dies. There is no case feeder, and of course it's pistol only, so that's kind of a pro and a con in terms of its optimization, but then also its lack of support. Okay, moving on to the RL550C. I would call this the all-rounder of the group. If you want to load precision rifle ammunition for a PRS match, this press will do it. It's got a small diameter shell plate. It doesn't rock around all over the place, and that leads to consistent shoulder bump and consistent bullet seating depth. It is manually indexed, so it's optimized for long cartridges and optimized stroke of the handle. You can get aftermarket accessories. Dillon sells a case feeder for it. This is the Double Alpha Academy case feeder. This is an inline fabrication ergonomic roller handle. Dillon makes a bunch of goodies for all of the presses, including tool racks and a bunch of cool stuff. The RL550 also represents quite a value. It's got capabilities, it's got quality, it's simple, but it also doesn't have a huge price tag. So you can go with a max cartridge length of 3.72 inches, so that will accommodate a 300 Magnum, like a 300 PRC. Pretty awesome that you can do that. Also really good for pistol ammunition. If you're loading a whole bunch of 9 or a whole bunch of 45 ACP, the 550C is definitely going to do the job. In terms of total cost of ownership, so one pistol caliber bare bones is going to have a street price of $744, and two pistol calibers, two rifle calibers with case feed is going to have a street price of $21.89. So you can see there's quite a variance depending on what it is that you're loading, which is always the case with any piece of reloading gear. So in summary, what it's for: precision, progressive reloading, and it's definitely quality on a budget. What it's not for: commercial or mass production reloading. If you want auto indexing, which can be a very good safety feature, this is not the press for you. If you're used to the 550 and you stay on the 550, you'll get into the sink of indexing. You can use a powder check die, all sorts of ways to ensure that you don't have double charges or squib loads on that. Pros include quality, simplicity, versatility and standard features, precision, and economy. I mean, it's not a real cheap press because it's a quality piece of gear, but it's going to be more affordable than the more fully featured Dillon equipment that we'll talk about in a moment. Cons: no auto indexing, and it's limited to 4 stations. So if you want to have a powder check, you're going to have to combine some stages like seating and crimping, for instance. You know, there's always going to be trade-offs with less stations, which is why we've gone to more and more stations on the commercial side. It's because individual adjustment and troubleshooting and repairs, those are all good things when you have more budget. But that comes at the cost of increased complexity as well. Okay, moving our way to the XL750. If the RL550C is the best all-rounder, overall, I would say the XL750 is the sweet spot for the 5-station progressive reloader in general. The XL650, which preceded the XL750, did not have my favorite priming system with the telephone dial. There's a little bit of a safety issue there. It was not on demand. It would just keep priming if you're setting up stations and they would go off the little ski ramp. Dillon completely addressed that with the 750 by going to a slide bar priming system. And it's got quality. It's got the purpose-built parts for the case feed system. So when the cases are dropping and they're optimized and all of the adjustments are pre-made, when you drop those parts in and do a caliber conversion, it's going to work. The cases drop down, they feed in. There's a guide plate that holds the case rim so that they can't fall off. There's a bit of added cost with those purpose-built case feed parts for the caliber conversion kit, but I feel like it's well worth it because they've really fine-tuned them to work really well. So the case feeder is definitely a highlight on the XL750. It's got great capacity. Max cartridge length is 3.68 inches. Max case length is 2.72 inches. I've done 30-06 on this platform and it works really well. You'll find a really old video of the XL650 on my channel doing that. 5 stations gives you the capability to take seating and crimping and separate those as a part of the reloading process. And you can also have a powder check die. Dillon has their own powder check system, which is probably the most reliable and simple system. It does beep if there's no cases in that station, so you know that's a little bit of a downside, but in terms of the simplicity of adjustment and the downright reliability of it, it's got a buzzer. Awesome. Just like the other presses, we've got low primer warning, and it's just a very well proven, very well engineered system. 5 stations. Total cost of ownership for one pistol caliber bare bones would be $939. 2 pistol calibers, 2 rifle calibers with case feed. When you add case feed, you're basically just adding the collator and the motor. So the case feed will goes on top. It's motorized. It doesn't cost as much as some case feed systems because the bones of it are actually built into the press. That tops out at $21.80, which again, given the quality of the product, the fact that it's made in the USA, I think that represents a definitely solid value. Okay, summary. Who it's for: pistol and rifle reloading up to medium volume. This thing will crank out ammo very, very quickly. Very good for things like 223 and 308. 9mm, 45 ACP, 357 mag, 10 and 40. I've done all of those on this press and it really shines. What it's not for: low budget reloading. You know, this is a system you've got to spend some money on and it's worth it. Or commercial loading. It's just not intended for that. So the pros are the quality. 5 stations is a step up from the other presses. The great case feed system, quick caliber changes thanks to those purpose-built parts for the case feed. Also, Dillon's model is to leave your dies set up on a tool head. Usually the best thing to do is to get a dedicated powder measure for each basic setup, and then you basically just pull the pins and the entire upper half, including dies and powder, just whoosh, comes right off the press. The caliber changes. The priming system is more simple also compared to the 650, which the 750 replaces. So all good things there. Cons: cost, and there was an issue with the bullet feeder and the powder measure conflict. Double Alpha Academy has a solution with the extra short powder charge bar, which I've got right up here. That is kind of a corner case for those of you running bullet feeders on this particular press. Okay, so moving from the 750 up to the RL 1100, we go from kind of the consumer category to the commercial category. With 8 stations and with dedicated included case feed with on-press swaging. This on-press swaging is a big step up. If you've got military crimped pistol or rifle brass that you're reloading, a common scenario would be you buy a Milsurp 223 or 308 7.62x51, and you've got crimped primer pockets, a little stamp around the primer pocket. It forces the brass in a little bit to hold the primer in place. That little crimp needs to be removed, and there's a built-in swaging capability where a rod comes up from the bottom, it punches out that primer pocket to the appropriate dimension, and you can go on loading. That's one more off-press step that you don't even have to think about with the RL 1100. More die stations means that you can separate more of the functions with separate die stations, and that means easier and quicker adjustments if you're swapping out components, and can really help with caliber changeovers and setups as well. This is another tried and true platform. This is another that people have depended on for decades. The Super 1050 preceded it. The RL 1100 is the latest version in that family of presses, the 8-station presses. And it's loaded with a lot of the same functions and features like the standard powder measure, the low primer warning, and all the rest that you'd expect with Dillon. The specific engineered parts in the case feed system for quick changeover and so on and so forth. Okay, so total cost of ownership for the RL 1100, one pistol caliber bare bones would be $22.99. That includes case feed. Keep that in mind. 2 pistol calibers, 2 rifle calibers with case feed, which is included, $43.75. So when you're stepping up to the 1100, you're definitely stepping up in price, but you're also getting cast iron construction on the frame of the press. You're getting commercial operation abilities, and you're just getting a more fully featured press with more stations. So it just depends on what your needs are. If you need to do commercial level work, definitely look at the RL 1100. So in summary, the RL 1100, who it's for: serious reloaders, commercial reloaders, prosumer reloaders. Maybe you're a competitive pistol shooter that shoots 100,000 rounds a year and it has to be your ammo and it has to be loaded exactly the way you want it. The RL 1100 is squarely aimed at that person. Who it's not for: beginning reloaders, casual reloaders. This is something that you step up to after you kind of know what you're doing and are serious about what you're doing. Pros: 8 stations, reliability and smoothness, standard case feeder, commercial grade quality. The cons are the cost of this kind of equipment, regardless of brand, and then also the complexity of additional functions and additional stations, which it's more complex and it's also not as complex because when you combined multiple functions into one station, it can be more complicated to set up, actually. So that is kind of a basic summary with a little bit more color compared to the progressive press shootout of the individual press options from Dillon. Like I mentioned, there's the CP2000. The CP2000 also has on-press swaging. So if you have the trimmer like I'm showing here, the RT1500, and the swaging, wow. If you have commercial 223 or military 223, military 308, and you want to run it through there and size it and swage and do all of the case prep steps that you need to do initially, this is a really great way to do that. And it is at a lower price point compared to the RL1100. It doesn't come with priming and it doesn't come with the powder measure and related parts. So if you're just focused on case prep, that's going to be a great option on kind of a commercial or industrial scale. Again, my question for you here as we conclude this video is, what press did you pick, or what press would you suggest for a particular type of reloader in this Dillon lineup? What experiences have you had with your blue press? Drop a comment and we'll start a discussion. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. If you're interested in custom rifles like what we build here on the channel or gunsmithing services, you're going to want to go to rifles.ultimatereloader.com and get on the wait list. If you're interested in becoming a professional gunsmith, check out the Sonoran Desert Institute. They've got a degree program, they've got a certificate program, and you can study from home. Learn more at sdi.edu. Thanks again for watching.